V-Knowledge on Cinema. I'm Victor Omoayo, and today I'm going to be talking about not just one, but two films, and they are Skyfall and The Dark Knight Rises. At first glance, it seems kind of odd to be comparing a James Bond film to one starring a guy dressed in a badass bat costume. But upon closer inspection, there are a few intriguing comparisons to be drawn from both movies, such as the state of the film's protagonists to thematic sensibilities, among other elements. Skyfall is the 23rd entry in the James Bond series, and Daniel Craig stars in his third outing as Agent 007, who is on a mission to recover a stolen hard drive containing the list of names of all undercover MI6 agents spread throughout the world. And the mastermind behind this theft is a former MI6 agent named Raoul Silva, played fabulously by Javier Bardem. The Dark Knight Rises is the third and final film in Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy, and it takes place 8 years after the events of the second film, The Dark Knight. Christian Bale is once again Batman / Bruce Wayne, who is now tasked with facing a brand new and fearsome enemy in the form of Bane, played by Tom Hardy. Now, you should know that there will be some spoilers of both films throughout this video essay, so if for some strange reason you have yet to see either one of these films, I humbly suggest that you go handle your business and then come back to this here video essay. Otherwise, if you've seen both films already or just don't care at all about spoilers, welcome aboard, friends. Looking at the main protagonists in both Skyfall and The Dark Knight Rises, it is clear that both heroes are either past their prime or out of step physically. After being shot accidentally and falling off of a moving train, Bond is assumed to be dead. He eventually resurfaces and undergoes a series of physical and psychological tests to gauge his condition for field duty. In contrast to his previous appearances in Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace, Bond appears visibly aged, his face haggard, worn and unshaven with gray stubble. Even his marksmanship is poor. He has to march closer to his target to make accurate shots. In The Dark Knight Rises, Bruce Wayne has let himself deteriorate gradually for nearly a decade, shutting himself off from the rest of the world like Howard Hughes in his stately Wayne Manor. The bottles of urine are nowhere to be seen. A shaggy beard covers his face and he hobbles around on a cane, decked in a drab house robe, a far cry from the hero that Gotham City deserves. In a later scene, a doctor gives Wayne the rundown of his alarmingly shoddy condition, highlighting the wear and tear Wayne has endured as Gotham's Dark Knight. In the case of James Bond, he returns from the dead, so to speak, because he continues to be motivated by his duty as an MI6 agent. Like Bruce Wayne, Bond has felt the pain of losing the love of his life, who was Vesper Lynd in Casino Royale. However, her death was a significant turning point in the development of 007 as the cold and efficient spy that he is. Whereas in Wayne's case, the murder of his childhood sweetheart Rachel Dawes at the hands of the Joker drove him to slow down his own life to a screeching halt. In Wayne's view, how could he continue to be Batman, the protector of the innocent, when he cannot protect the ones who are closest to him? Bond is not the only hero whose competency is called into question. His boss, M, the director of MI6, is pressured to retire in light of Bond's failure to retrieve the stolen hard drive. Gareth Mallory, the former chairman of the Intelligence and Security Committee, tells M that she should leave with dignity, to which she replies, "Oh, to hell with dignity. I'll leave when the job's done." One compelling factor that influences how both Bond and Wayne return to field action is how they handle the truth about themselves. In Bond's case, he's told by M that he passed his physical and psych tests, clearing him to return to duty. In actuality, Bond failed every one of his tests, and it seems that M isn't inspiring a lot of confidence in her judgment given the current situation. Perhaps, however, this is one reason why she sends Bond back into the fray, despite his lackluster shape. She needs to prove to her colleagues and her government that not only can Bond still get the job done and is the best man for the job, but that her leadership remains as strong as it has ever been. As 007's mentor since before he received his 00 status in Royale, M has guided him in the ways of being an effective agent, and she chooses to place her trust and faith in her protege. Plus, she knows that Bond's roguish tendencies wouldn't let something like failing a physical stop him from the mission. For Bruce Wayne, the truth unfortunately causes a rift in his relationship with his lifelong caretaker, Alfred Pennyworth. In an effort to persuade Bruce to see reason and not to put on the cape and cowl again, Alfred tells him the truth about Rachel's letter, in which she made her decision to be with Harvey Dent. He also cites Bruce's mediocre physical condition and chastises him for his suicidal desire to become a martyr. Wayne's refusal to consider Alfred's valid concerns, as well as his gross underestimation of Bane, proves to be his near undoing. Also, the truth about Batman's heroism comes to light when Bane, having acquired Commissioner Jim Gordon's unread speech from the beginning of Rises, reveals to the city the real story of Harvey Dent's actions which led to his downfall, as well as the Dent Act, which led to the imprisonment of thousands of criminals without due process. Bane's exposure of Dent's crimes all but ironically confirms the views of Ra's al Ghul, Wayne's nemesis from Batman Begins, in which he claimed that Gotham City was too corrupt to be saved. Batman and Commissioner Gordon created a lie in order to preserve peace. Going back to the second film, Batman also had to cross legal and ethical boundaries in order to catch the Joker by hacking into the cell phones of every citizen in Gotham. When considering the antagonists of both films, Raoul Silva in Skyfall and Bane in The Dark Knight Rises, it is fascinating to note that they are not only the inverse of their respective protagonists, but that they both reflect the cultural zeitgeist of today. Silva, the man responsible for stealing the hard drive and subsequent attacks on MI6, specializes in computer hacking. He believes that the traditional methods of espionage are obsolete since he could topple governments, rig elections, start wars, and leak state secrets all with a few clicks of a mouse and a couple of taps on a keyboard. With his bright blonde hair and penchant for leaking classified information, Silva appears to be inspired in part by WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. Unlike Bond, Silva has no need for globetrotting with guns blazing. Silva's brand of cyber-terrorism deeply resonates in today's perpetually evolving technological climate. Currently, one of the more pressing hot-button issues focuses on the use of military drones in both warfare and civilian settings, and the ethical and legal implications that this brings to the forefront. Imagine if there was a real-life Silva that acquired the means of such weaponry. Contrary to past 007 films, such a plot isn't so far-fetched at all. On the other hand, Bane is a terrorist leader who is the new head of the League of Shadows, the same shadowy group that Bruce Wayne trained with in Batman Begins. In contrast to Silva, Bane is a demagogue who taps into the socio-economic inequality and melees felt by many of Gotham City's less fortunate citizens. He wages war against the decadence of the city by attacking the stock exchange and bankrupting Wayne, and stokes the fires of anger among the ordinary citizens to rebel against the wealthy elites. We see scenes of the well-to-do dragged out of their posh homes into the street, and a few being given show trials presided over by Dr. Jonathan Crane, who sentences anyone unlucky enough to be caught to go to their icy graves. Bane's revolutionary rhetoric is a misrepresentative, funhouse mirror distortion of the Occupy Wall Street sentiment, and the aforementioned scenes of the rich being assaulted has led to some commentators perceiving Rises to be a piece of conservative propaganda, which is an absurd assessment to make, considering the fact that Bane and his League of Shadows seek to suppress all opposition and rule with fear, while the Occupy Wall Street movement promoted a progressive, grassroots agenda. Selina Kyle also shares the growing resentment and frustration by those in Gotham who are economically disadvantaged by warning Wayne that, when it all hits, you're all gonna wonder how you ever thought you could live so large and leave so little for the rest of us. Selina also references the modern state of affairs in the world of technology by referring to the Clean Slate program, which is rumored to be used to erase the criminal histories and other past indiscretions of individuals. She remarks that in today's world, it's impossible to reboot one's life when everything we do is collated and quantified. Some of the best villains in numerous stories serve to be the direct inverse of their heroic opposites. For example, Silva's flamboyantly effeminate demeanor stands as a sharp contrast to 007's hard-edged masculinity. Also, as a former member of MI6, Silva remarks that, like Bond, he was once M's favorite agent until he went rogue. In the world of Rises, Bane appears to be a walking contradiction. As Silva's flippant personality belies his treacherous objectives, Bane's hulking, brutish exterior masks his keen intellect and refined manner of speech, which serves to make him even more menacing. When Silva is first introduced in Skyfall, he tells Bond a story about a bunch of rats that were captured and thrown into an oil drum. He enthusiastically illustrates how the rats cannibalized one another until only 2 remained, after which they emerged with a taste for rodent. In Rises, the oil drum takes the form of the underground prison in which Bane was raised, and in which Wayne, broken body and all, is sent to meet his end. While Bane and Batman are the last 2 rats standing, as Silva describes both himself and Bond, Wayne's imprisonment is also his own nadir, physically and psychologically. The truth of his failures have finally caught up with him, and it is this prison, the bottom of the barrel, where Wayne must either rebuild himself or let the rats of despair and defeat consume him entirely. Now, when it comes to empowering female characters, the 007 series isn't exactly the first thing that comes to mind, considering all the womanizing that Bond does in every film. Skyfall is notable for taking a step off the beaten path with the characters of M and Eve Moneypenny. I always thought of having a ladies' man like Bond answer to a woman like M to be quite brilliant. When she still places her trust in Bond amidst having her very tenure scrutinized, I think back to her conversation with Pierce Brosnan's 007 in GoldenEye, in which she tells him that he would be mistaken to think that she doesn't have the balls to send a man to his death, but she wouldn't do it so casually. Sending a less than 100% agent back to duty while assertively standing her ground in the face of damning criticisms takes some real intestinal fortitude. The character of Moneypenny, traditionally M's secretary in past Bond films, takes on a much broader presence than ever before in Skyfall. Naomi Harris's Eve is a competent field agent who earns her stripes outside of the offices and proves to be an essential partner for 007. I'm intrigued to see where her character goes in future installments. Selina Kyle, mainly known to fans as Catwoman, although she is not once referred to by this moniker in the film, is in my view the most powerful female character in the Dark Knight trilogy, aside from Talia al Ghul. On the surface, she is Batman/Bruce Wayne's moral counterpoint, as she is not only willing to take lives if necessary, but also regards the downfall of Gotham City with a devil-may-care attitude. Internally, for the most part, however, she aligns herself with Wayne's altruistic views. One final aspect of note in both Skyfall and The Dark Knight Rises is the thematic similarities of their endings. In the case of Skyfall, everything old becomes new again when Mallory becomes the new head of MI6 following M's death. The leadership transitions from Judi Dench's character back to a male director. Mallory, played by Ralph Fiennes, joins actors Bernard Lee and Robert Brown in the role. Eve Moneypenny moves from the field to the office as the new Miss Moneypenny, and even the design of their office is a throwback to the old MI6 office featured in the early 007 films. In The Dark Knight Rises, the old gives way to the new when Bruce Wayne finally lets go of the cape and cowl and leaves his legacy to John Blake, who discovers the Batcave at the end of the film. This serves as an affirmation to Wayne's original intentions of the Batman character, that the Dark Knight is to be a symbol for others to reach down deep within themselves and become heroes to others. Skyfall and The Dark Knight Rises are 2 grade A films that manage to elevate themselves above the confines of the action genre. Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy represents the full potential of what a comics-based film can achieve, and Skyfall rises above and beyond other 007 films by touching on real-world contemporary issues and fears. And once again, thank you for tuning in. I'm Victor Omoayo, and you can find more video essay goodness on my V Knowledge channel.